Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. Since the 19th century, the average human body temperature has decreased by as much as 1 degree Fahrenheit. Guitar Center was originally named the Organ Center. When the Beatles became popular, the organ supplier demanded that Organ Center began selling Vox guitar amplifiers. Because people with epilepsy are rarely schizophrenic and vice versa, Ladislas J. von Meduna started inducing epileptic seizures in schizophrenic people to treat the disease. His first tests of convulsive therapy resulted in the first cure for catatonia and led to the development of ECT. In 1870, Thomas Bolton and Frederick Park were arrested after being found in public dressed as women, put on trial for conspiracy to commit sodomy, and acquitted because prosecutors couldn't prove any sexual activity. The trial was widely discussed in the press. California's Salton Sea was accidentally created in 1905 when a canal beach flooded a desert sink 86 meters below sea level. The Kettle War of 1784 was a brief and bloodless conflict between the Holy Roman Empire and the Dutch Republic. This was sparked when a single cannon shot hit only a soup kettle on an Australian ship. The Dutch captured the vessel and the war ended almost immediately. Mummy unwrapping parties was a thing. They were social events popular among the Victorian elite where Egyptian mummies were ceremoniously unwrapped for entertainment. In 1983, a term was coined for worker ants of certain species that can have children but are not queens. The term in English is Gamergate. Before secret ballots were introduced in 1872, the UK kept publicly available poll books for each election which recorded how each man voted. This information was not only used by politicians to identify swing voters, but also by bosses and landlords to influence their employees and tenants. In 1995, convicted killers Daniel Luther Heiss and Shane Baker escaped from prison after Heiss discovered the key printed on the prisoner's information handbook was the master key to the entire prison. Baker had jewelry making equipment in his cell and made a copy of the key. Both were recaptured. Tierra del Fuego, the remote southern tip of South America, once produced 90% of the air conditioners, cell phones, TVs, and microwaves sold in Argentina. In the 1980s, East Germany tried to resolve a major coffee shortage by building coffee production infrastructure in Vietnam, its close ally. By the time the coffee was harvested, East Germany had ceased to exist. Meanwhile, today, Vietnam is the second largest coffee producer in the world. The shortest and tallest players in NBA history played on the same team from 1987 to 1988. Meher Baba observed total silence for 44 years, from 1925 to 1969. He believed true communication went beyond words. He used hand gestures and an alphabet board, famously saying, "I have come not to teach but to awaken." Pheasant Island is a condominium, a political territory in which multiple sovereign powers formally agree to share administrative responsibilities. From February 1st to July 31st, Spain holds stewardship. The other 6 months onwards, the small island becomes an official part of France. While as few as a dozen workers died from accidents during 1826 to 1832 during the construction of Ottawa's Rideau Canal, it's estimated that 1,000 died due to disease, primarily malaria. George Thorogood's 8-minute version of One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer is actually 2 John Lee Hooker songs stitched together. The Guardian newspaper ran a dating site for over 15 years. Budae jjigae, which is a Korean army stew, and tteokbokki are banned in North Korea for being South Korean inventions. In October of 1839, Robert Cornelius took the world's first selfie, a self-portrait captured with an early photographic tech. The linguistically closest relative to Malagasy spoken in Madagascar is Maanyan, spoken on the island of Borneo in Indonesia. It's been suggested that early Malagasy migrants moved away from Borneo in the 7th century AD based on linguistic markets. During the 1978 World Chess Championship, there was accusations of a hypnotherapist being used to rig the game. So, two Ananda Marga yoga specialists were hired to counteract him. In 1855, the Toronto Circus Riot happened, which began when clowns from S.B. Howe's Star Troupe Menagerie and Circus brawled with local firefighters in a brothel. The next night, firemen, their allies, and even police destroyed the circus. No arrests were made due to political ties. Ralph Lazo was the only non-spouse, non-Japanese American citizen to volunteer to live in the Japanese American internment camps during World War II. He would later leave the camp to join the US Army to help expel the Japanese military from the Philippines, earning a Bronze Star Medal. Browser the librarian cat outlived the city councilor that tried to evict him from his own position. In 1964, performance artist Dorothy Podber asked to shoot Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe paintings. Believing she wanted to photograph them, Warhol agreed until she drew a weapon and fired. One of the damaged, shot Marilyns sold in 2022 for $195 million, a 20th century art auction record. The English countries of Lincolnshire and Northamptonshire share a border that's approximately 20 yards in length. It's the shortest county border in England. Prop material from David Lynch's Dune from 1984 was reused in a raunchy Mexican comedy film about two astronauts landing in a planet inhabited solely by women. It was called Two Trashy Guys on the Planet of Women. The US Navy had nuclear battleship shells. The GTA flu is a phenomenon that occurs when a game from a popular franchise is released and many people call in sick to their jobs to be able to buy it and play the new game. The character Sherlock Holmes officially entered public domain in 2023. A Connecticut town was forced to battle a night terror when attacked by frogs. After sacking Antioch in 540 AD, the Sasanian king Khosrow I deported its population to Persia and resettled them in a new city that he founded. In English, it's translated as Khosrow's Better Antioch. The weight of all the ants on Earth is greater than all the wild birds and mammals combined. Hippos, deers, and other herbivores sometimes eat meat and even kill live game. Eddie Slovik was court-martialed for desertion in World War II, and he's the only US soldier to be executed for purely military offenses since the Civil War. He said he deserted because prison was better than combat and anticipated a light sentence. He was executed to deter others from thinking similarly. Bobby Leach in 1911 was the first man and second person to survive going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. He spent 6 months recovering from his injuries, only to later die from gangrene after slipping on an orange peel and injuring his leg in 1926. Sherlock Holmes is the most portrayed literary human character in film and TV, 254 times as of 2012 by 75 actors. David Bowie once launched an internet service called BowieNet in the late 90s. Neil Young made an album that was so unlike his previous recordings and not commercial that he was sued by his record label Geffen Records. Winston Churchill made a speech in the early 1930s in which, among other things, he explained the inefficiency of meat production and promoted lab-grown meat. On average, a hippopotamus can run at speeds around 19 to 28 miles per hour, which is 30 to 45 kilometers per hour. In 2023, a Canadian judge dismissed a case of criminal harassment against a man and ruled that flipping the proverbial bird is a God-given, charter-enshrined right that belongs to every red-blooded Canadian. Until the Civil War, American currency was made only from silver or gold coins. Though the colonial Continental Congress briefly issued paper currency, it wasn't until 1862 that Congress authorized the use of paper currency as legal tender for any debts. Blue jeans were invented after Taylor Jacob Davis partnered with Levi Strauss in 1873 to patent rivet-reinforced work trousers. Samerda Raska was an 8th century wooden ship reconstructed from a stone carving at the Borobudur Temple. It then sailed to Ghana via Madagascar and the Cape of Good Hope as plausible proof of an ancient cinnamon trade between Africa and Indonesia. Jeanne de Cleason from 1300 to 1359 was a pirate and privateer called the Lioness of Brittany. She embarked in revenge for the execution of her husband, ordered by the French king. She sailed across the English Channel looking for French commerce ships and called her flagship My Revenge. In the 1930s, Swansea Jack, a black retriever from Wales, saved 27 people from drowning in the docks and River Tawe area of Swansea. He was awarded medals, newspaper honors, and even a monument for his bravery. Babies are born with cartilage kneecaps that don't start turning into bone until 2 to 6 years old and finish around 10 to 12 years old. The US Marine Corps and the Department of the Navy allowed thousands of people to drink contaminated water at Lejeune Marine Corps Base Camp over the course of decades. And that's it. Let me know what you guys thought of this. As always, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.